So this is an old Apple keyboard model 1048, which I got for around $3. Since it has a transparent housing, you can really see how disgusting it was. Apart from having like pubic hairs in between the keys, it also felt extremely sticky. Before I cleaned it, I wanted to test it, and basically what I found is that only a handful of keys worked. So I figured that it needed to be disassembled and cleaned from the inside. It wasn't too hard to take apart. Just had a few screws in the back and 2 ribbon cables which connect the 2 membranes to the main circuit board. After that, I had to take out like a million screws out of the back plate. After lifting the back plate off, I could really see the extent of the damage to the membranes. Couldn't tell what it was, but the membranes were covered in a sticky layer of shmoo. Nice. So I started wiping it off just with alcohol, and then I wanted to separate the 2 membranes which were stuck together. I peeled them off and then proceeded to clean the back plate, which was also kind of dirty and sticky to the touch. In between the 2 membranes, there's a plastic separator, which I wanted to remove so I could clean the membranes individually. I started wiping them down and I noticed a lot of dirt and grime coming off of these membranes. I started cleaning them, but then I noticed that the 2 membranes were glued together at a couple of points. So I used my X-Acto knife to separate them completely. At this point, it all started looking much cleaner, but I started to wonder about the state of the traces themselves. After cleaning, I figured it was time to reassemble the keyboard and see whether there are any improvements. I carefully put the little rubber domes in their place, then I laid the membranes on top of them. I've put the back plate in its place, and then I've put just enough screws to hold it together. After popping the ribbon cables in place, I started testing the keyboard. There was essentially no improvement. I have a couple of these keyboards now, and the issue with them is not only are they dirty, but the membranes themselves have been damaged. So we're gonna explore a couple of ways potentially repairing these membranes. I'm going to take out the screws again, and I'm gonna show you what the problem is. One thing I gotta be careful about is not losing these little rubber domes. So we're just gonna set it here and we're gonna focus on these. Now I have already separated and cleaned these membranes. So I have 2 of them. One is the top one, the other is the bottom one, and this is a little separator that goes in between. Now what I suspect happened with these ones is they got water damaged, or they just got liquid damage with some other substance, and the traces on the membranes themselves have corroded. So this is a trace, this little silver thing, which is covered in this, I guess it's a green solder mask or something. You can see that some of them got damaged. And then other ones, for example, these ones here, have just completely been eaten away by the corrosion. And then when I cleaned them, I just rubbed off what was left. This means that there's no continuity between this trace and this trace. And that's a problem, because that means that every button that's on this trace, it's not gonna work. I was thinking, how the hell do you repair this? Because there's no way of soldering a jumper wire or whatever to this plastic. And then I remembered that they sell these conductive ink pens, which could potentially be used to repair traces like this. And I've heard about people repairing controllers and things using this pen. And yeah, I've just been curious and I wanted to try it. This was a very cheap, inexpensive pen I got off AliExpress, and it only cost about I don't know, a few bucks. This is a copper version. There's also a silver one, but I opted for the copper just because I was curious. And one thing to note is the quality on these things is not the best. When I first got this, the tip of the pen was totally plugged up with paint. It just wouldn't work at all. So what I actually did is I took another pen, just a regular like gel type pen, and yeah, I just ripped the tip off of it and replaced. So yeah, we're gonna see how well this thing works or doesn't work, and whether or not this type of membrane can be repaired using this type of a pen. Okay, so before we get serious, I just wanted to do a little experiment. I'm gonna do a trace using this pen, and it says here ready to use in 5 to 10 minutes after applying. We're gonna mix it up and we're gonna try applying some of this stuff. So it's kind of brown in color because I guess it has copper, whatever. Smells like you could get high off of this. So I just made a little trace. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a multimeter, we're gonna put it in continuity mode. So we're gonna see whether or not this ink is actually conductive. This doesn't seem to be working too good. Maybe I have to give it more time to dry. So it does look nice and shiny, nice and coppery. But one thing I think you should be kind of careful about is try drawing just an uninterrupted line, because if you have any breaks in these lines, it's not going to conduct electricity that well. Okay, so there's continuity in here. Seems to work, kinda. I guess it would help if I left it to dry, right? But I just wanted to see whether or not it conducts electricity. Perhaps it works better on plastic and not on the paper itself, so we're gonna see how this goes. So yeah, I guess now it's time to look for the breaks, which is quite easy to do because you can follow the pads with a multimeter. So see that we have continuity here, and then yeah, we also have it here. We can also follow the continuity between the pins, so yeah, that's fine. Let's go here. So yeah, these all should work, which is good. These also look fine. We're just gonna check them. Yeah, okay, so seem to have no continuity here. Okay, let's go here. This is all fine. And then yeah, obviously we have an issue here because there's no continuity between this pad and this trace. So yeah, the first thing we're gonna need is we're going to have to scrape this off. One good way of doing that is using alcohol. Okay, so I have a cotton swab dipped in alcohol. We're gonna try removing some of this coating. There you go. Okay, so I've removed the green coating off. Now in theory, we should be able to draw a trace in between these two pads. I'm gonna prime the pen on this piece of paper just so I get the ink flowing. I'm not very artistic, so this doesn't look that good, I guess, as the original one, but should work. Okay, and I guess while we're waiting for this one to dry, I guess we can try moving on to the next one, which is this one. This one is supposed to have two connections, one here and one here. Okay, so something like that. Come on, there you go. I mean, it works, it clearly works. It's just kind of tedious. And yeah, at this point, I have no idea if this is going to work or not. They look kind of weird, but I don't know. Okay, so I've given them a couple of minutes to dry, and I'm really curious to see whether or not this is going to have continuity or not. So we're gonna check the first one that we did, which is this one, and it goes to this trace here. So yeah, okay, this has continuity. How about this? You ready? Well, by golly, it's fixed. Are you kidding me? About this one? Yep. Huh. Okay, wait, I'm trying to find where this trace goes. So it goes here, goes up, and then we follow the outer one, which goes here. Wow. Can't see whether this trace is broken or what, because there's no continuity between the two pads. So we're gonna try cleaning it off. Oh yeah, there's a break here. You see that? Yep, that here is a break, which is why there's no continuity between this trace and the upper one. Okay, do this. Whoop, whoop, something like that. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, so this is the bottom membrane, and just looking at it, you can kind of see here where it's dirty, but I don't see any broken traces yet, but I am going to check them with my multimeter. Okay, so we do have some damage, quite a bit of damage. None of these have continuity. Are you kidding me? So I started working on the other membrane, and I found that it was in much worse shape than the other one was. If you've ever done like those maze labyrinth games as a kid, yeah, this was kind of like that. It was actually kind of fun. It was extremely time consuming because there were like literally 100 traces I had to follow through and check. After that, it was time to reassemble the keyboard one last time before testing it. I actually did this like a dozen times off camera and marked off the keys that still need to be fixed. Now, this was very, very hard. This keyboard has so many traces and they all interlap. So it was very difficult to be able to follow all of them and to find which ones are connected to which pads. So it was very time consuming, but we're finally at the point where I can show you that the entire keyboard works. So I have this little keyboard checker, which I just found online. And yeah, we're gonna go through all of the keys. So yeah, every single key on this keyboard now works, even though this checker doesn't recognize all the Apple specific keys. After testing the keyboard, it was time to move on to the cleaning phase. I put all of the little rubber domes in this bucket, and I've proceeded to pop off every single key on this keyboard. I've also put all the other case plastic pieces into the same bucket, and then I filled it with warm water. I've also added some detergent to the warm water, and then I left it there to soak for a few hours. Afterwards, I rinsed them off, and then I put the rubber domes as well as the plastic keycaps into a strainer. I've left them all to dry overnight. The next day, I started to reassemble the keyboard. Putting in the freshly cleaned keys was the most satisfying part of this project. Now, some of you might be wondering, why the hell would anybody want to spend this amount of time and energy on something that's objectively not worth the effort? I mean, it's just an old keyboard, and it's not even that good. But not only was this a great learning experience for me, this is something I really enjoyed doing on my channel, which is saving all shitty electronics from trash. So if you'd like to see more, feel free to check out my other videos. Thanks so much for watching.